Hello and welcome to lesson number 4 in my guitar technique series. What I'm trying to do with these lessons is to show you some tips and tricks, some good things you can put into your playing, rather than spend ages teaching you an entire song or an entire tune, which, as I've said before, has been covered elsewhere. So what we're going to do today is exercise 11. So you need to go to my website and download the sheet for this, print it out. It's called the Tasteful Clawhammer Progression in D major, and I'm going to start by playing it through for you. So we've got a few chords to play around with there. We're starting with the D chord, normal D major chord, and we're going to do the standard clawhammer, which we've dealt with in earlier exercises. Then we're going to change to D major 7th. Now, if you don't know this chord, it's a lovely chord. You can do it by barring 3 strings, 2nd fret, so flattening your first finger over the E, B and G strings. This is called a half bar or half barre, if you want to be really correct, and you're going to pick the same strings you did for the D. In this chord progression you're going to hear a descending note. So we start off here. I've accented that 3rd note I played, which is the 3rd fret of the B string, which is the note D. When I change to D major 7th, that moves from D to C sharp. Have a listen. You can hear it there? 3rd note of the bar. Now, when we go to the next bar, bar number 3, D 7th, you can hear we've run down to that. Same picking. If you're not sure of D7, there it is. 1st fret of the B string, 2nd fret of the G string, 2nd fret of the high-pitched E string. Same picking, same strings. Remember, it's thumb, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb. And then when we change to the G chord, we actually need a finger on the 2 E strings. We don't need the finger on the A string like you would if you were strumming the chord. So I use my 3rd finger behind the 3rd fret of the bass E and my little finger behind the 3rd fret of the treble E, the high pitched E. And the picking is E string, low E string, G string, B string, low E string, E string, G string. So same picking really. Thumb, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb. And so we've gone from D to C sharp to C to B. Listen out for those notes. I'll accent them, I'll play them a bit harder. Hear that? It's rather nice. And we're going to carry on with that. Now the next chord is G minor, written GM, and it's a bar chord. Now this can put fear and dread into the hearts of guitarists when they hear that word. I was quite old, well I say old, probably about 17 before I played my first bar chord. And I must admit, when I first started playing them, I thought, I'm never going to do this in a million years. I mean, it has to be said, you do need a fairly decent guitar to be able to get a good result. How does it work? Well, if you know what a capo is, it's one of those things you attach to the guitar to shorten the neck and thus raise the pitch of the instrument. Your index finger acts as a capo. So if I was to play this chord, you probably recognise that as an E minor chord, 2nd fret of the A, 2nd fret of the D. Now if I move the up 1 fret, so those fingers are behind the 3rd fret, and bar across the 1st fret, or just behind the 1st fret, my E minor becomes F minor. Move it up another fret, becomes F sharp minor, and move it up to the 3rd fret, it becomes G minor. That's the chord we need here. So how do we do a G minor chord? We flatten our 1st finger right across the guitar behind the 3rd fret. We miss a fret and we do an E minor shape, 3rd finger, 5th fret of the A, 4th finger, 5th fret of the D. And if you just strum that across, a little tip here is just turn the index finger over slightly towards the nut, so the harder, bonier part of the finger presses down. If you go a bit too flat, it's the fleshy part of the finger that presses, and sometimes that can't press quite hard enough, I find. Experiment with different positions of your finger. I mean, I've got a very long index finger. I tend to go right up to the knuckle. Some people have the tip of the finger where the bass E string is. Obviously you've got to clamp hard with the thumb around the back so all the strings are clear. So basically bar chords are shapes that you know and love, like E minor, E major, A major, but moved up. So this is E minor, and there's a gap between the bar and the shape, because when you play E minor, there's a gap here behind the first fret, you see? So that's G minor. Now, what you're going to pick here is the low E string, D string, G string, low E string, B string, D string. So same pattern really, but it's moved over. And it's thumb, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb. And we're still maintaining our downward progression. That's the note, the B flat there. There, see? Third note of the bar. Now, you don't really need the third finger down because you don't play that fifth string, but I would advise you to put it down. It just makes it feel a bit more secure, and it's a good way of remembering that this is a G minor. I mean, that isn't a G minor if you strum it. It's only a G minor as long as you pick certain strings, so you see what I mean? I would put the whole lot down. If you really can't do this, there is an alternative, and that is just to bar 3 strings like you did for D major 7th, but on the 3rd fret. Put your 3rd finger behind the 5th fret of the D and pick the same strings that you did for the D chord. Okay, that's okay, but obviously you don't get that nice progression. So let's have a listen to those first 5 bars and listen out for that downward progression. And then we carry on to the D chord again, and then we do this. Now, on bar 7 there, you're going to play an A7th chord, and you can see it looks a bit strange because it starts with open B and open A pinched together. So you can have no fingers down at all, and then as you go into the chord, there's a hammer on, so the 2nd finger hammers on to the 2nd fret of the B, like that, and stays down, and then open G, play with the thumb, and then the 3rd finger goes on to the 3rd fret of the B, so it's kind of an A7 sus4 if you like. And then you carry on picking in the normal way. So you're pinching strings A and B to start with. Then you play the G and the B string, 3rd fret, open A, open E, open G. Now, what I want you to notice there is that I go to the D chord off the beat on the last quaver of that bar 7. So I'm syncopating. Instead of just going like that and just waiting to play the D chord in bar 8, I go to it slightly earlier. See? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's on that and count where the D chord comes in really. Syncopation is putting an accent on the weak part of the bar. That's what you're doing on the final quaver of bar 7, and I think it sounds quite good. Now don't forget, these vertical lines, the crotchet and quaver markings if you like, they're just a guideline. I mean, to be honest, the strings ring on obviously so that the timing values aren't accurate. It's not, when it says a 1 beat note like the D, obviously it rings for longer than that. It rings for as long as it can until you touch it again. This is just a general guideline to the timing. I should also mention that I use a program called Table Edit to produce my tablature, which is a really good program, and I use it on my Mac, and I think it's available for the PC as well. I'd have to check that. Very, very good program. If you've got Table Edit, let me know, and I can send you the source tab for this, and you can muck around with it yourself, because obviously the files on my website are PDFs, which you obviously can't alter, you can just only print out. That A7 in bar 7, a bit like the G minor, you don't need the first finger on the second fret of the D because you don't play the D string, but again I would suggest put it on. So your A7 will essentially be second finger, second fret of the B, first finger, second fret of the D, but you actually really don't need that. And then it goes to A7 plus 4 then, see? And the final bar, bar number 8, is the same as the first bar. I actually think that accent, that louder note, that third note of each of the first 6 bars, it sounds good. It makes it interesting. It turns sort of a fairly flat landscape into something more interesting. So let's do that. Notice the counting on bar 7 is different. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You've got 4 pairs of quavers. All the other bars are 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Crotchet, 2 quavers, crotchet. Now, like I said in an earlier lesson, when you're picking like this, it's a very severe examination of your chord technique, of your pressing and arching. It will soon expose any problems that you have, and it's a good thing. Obviously, when you're strumming, sometimes you can get away with the odd dead string, not so when you're picking. By the way, that major 7th chord, D major 7th, I'm a big fan of major 7th chords. From the day I discovered them, I've used them extensively. And what it basically is, it is a D major chord, but instead of having this note, which is the root note, you have the note that's a semitone below it, C sharp, as well as the root note, but a different pitch. So you've got the D down there, and you've got the C sharp there, and they are next door neighbours, but because they are separated by almost an octave, it doesn't matter. So the component parts of a major 7th chord are the 1st, 3rd, 5th and the true 7th of the major scale. So in this chord we've got D, which is the 1st, the root. We've got an A, which is the 5th. We've got a C sharp, which is the true 7th, the major 7th if you like. And we've got an F sharp, which is the 3rd of the scale of D major. Notice they're not in kind of height order, are they? You've got 1st, you've got 5th, you've got 7th, and then you've got 3rd. They're dotted about all over the place, but it doesn't matter what way round you put them, as long as you've got those component parts, you've got your chord, and that is D major 7th. Similarly, if you wanted another easy major 7th, if you know a C chord, take your first finger off, and that is C major 7th. Because when you take the first finger off and you expose the open B, the B is the true 7th of the scale of C major. Not to be confused with C7, which features that note B flat. See, when we did our D progression, we had D, D major 7th, which featured C sharp, D 7th, which featured C. Okay, so understand the difference between a major 7th and a 7th. So there we are, that's a lovely little sequence, and you might want to use that or part of that to write a song. Practice it up. Usual thing, play it slowly, build your speed up. Now, what you can do is to accent a different part of the bar. So you could accent the one but last note. See, on those first 6 bars. So there we are. I think that's enough for one day. Hope very much you enjoyed this lesson. And keep practicing. Let me know how you're getting on. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next lesson.